The Apostle Paul believed that the end had already commenced with the victory over the forces of evil that had been won at Jesus' cross and sealed at his resurrection. The victory was not by any means yet complete, but it had at least begun. This victory, according to Paul, brought newness of life, the beginning, if not the fulfillment, of the new age. For this reason, according to Paul, everyone who was baptized into Christ was a new creation, which implied a new social order. In the book of Galatians 3:27-28, we read, "For as many of you as have been baptized into Christ have put on Christ. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus." No male and female in Christ. This was a radical notion in an age in which everyone knew that males and females were inherently different. The notion, however, was deeply rooted in the Pauline churches. We have now come to recognize that in Galatians 3:28, Paul is quoting words that were spoken over converts when they were baptized. No wonder there were women leaders in the Pauline churches. Women could well have taken these words to heart and come to realize that despite widespread opinion, they were not one whit inferior to the men with whom they served. Despite the impression that one might receive from such ancient Christian writings as the pastoral epistles, women were not always a silent presence in the churches. Consider Paul's letter to the Romans, in which he sends greetings to and from a number of his acquaintances in chapter 16. He does indeed name more men than women here, but the women in the church appear to be in no way inferior to their male counterparts. There is Phoebe, who was a deacon or a minister, entrusted by Paul with the task of carrying the letter to Rome. There is Prisca, who along with her husband Aquila is largely responsible for the Gentile mission and who supports a congregation in her own home. Notice that she is named ahead of her husband. There is Mary, Paul's colleague, who works among the Romans. There is Tryphenia, Tryphosa, and Persis, women whom Paul calls his co-workers for the gospel. And there is Julia, the mother of Rufus, all of whom appear to have a high profile in this community. Most impressively of all, there is Junia, a woman whom Paul names as foremost among the apostles. The apostolic band, as we see, was evidently larger and more inclusive than a list of 12 men of common knowledge. Other Pauline letters provide a similar impression of women's active involvement in the Christian churches. In Corinth, women are full members of the body with spiritual gifts and right to use them. They actively participate in service of worship, praying and prophesying alongside the men. In Philippians, the only two believers worth mentioning by name are two women, whose dissension concerns the apostle, evidently because of their prominent standing in the community. Indeed, according to the narrative of Acts, the church in Philippi began with the conversion of Lydia, a woman of means whose entire household came to follow her lead in adopting this new faith. She was the head of her household when the apostle first met her, and soon became head of the church that met in her home. Even after the period of the New Testament, women continued to be prominent in churches connected with Paul. Letters such as the pastoral epistles of 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus, later written in Paul's name, speak of such women and try to bring them into submission. These women are said in 1 Timothy 4:7 and 5:13 to go out telling old wife tales. There is yet other evidence of women enjoying prestigious positions in churches well into the late 2nd century. Some of this evidence derives from agnostic groups that claim allegiance to Paul and that were known to have women as their leaders and spokesperson. If you want to have a better view on how the Bible looks at women in its proper context, then you should get these two books. Matriarchs of the Covenant, written by Abdil Ben Levi, popularly known as Zion Lex. This is a masterpiece. And also my book, Woman by Divine Design. These two books will give you a reality check on the topic on the Bible and women. You will find the links to both books in the description box below.